Oh, good afternoon, everybody. This is
Good
Tom.
afternoon.
Let's call the meeting to order at 4:33, and let's have somebody start us with roll call.
Samji Chaudhary.
Big here.
Smith here.
Bacon here.
Keequam here.
Jim might be muted.
Yeah, I just asked him to unmute. And Jim was here.
Here, I had to take a phone call. I'm sorry.
All right.
Doing a roll call. I'm here.
Okay, Zal's here. So let's move on to item 3, the approval of the agenda. If that looks good to everybody, can I get a motion?
I move that we approve the agenda.
I second it.
Motion by Fig, second by Chowdhury,
Yes, sir.
to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right.
Opposed, the same. And motion is approved. The agenda is approved. Moving on to item 4, approval of meeting minutes. Let's start with the September 15th, 2020 regular meeting. Hearing no corrections or alterations, can I get a motion to approve the September 15th meeting minutes?
Move that we approve the minutes for September 15th.
Support, Smith.
Motion by Fig, support by Smith, to approve the September 15th, 2020 regular meeting minutes. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. And those September 15th meeting minutes are approved. And how are the September 22nd minutes to the special informational meeting looking to everybody?
Pretty straightforward. I'll make a motion to approve them as presented.
Support. Bacon.
Motion by Zalad, support by Bacon, to approve the September 22nd special informational meeting minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. And those September 22nd meeting minutes are approved. Moving on to item 5, presentations by the CIB planning group. Do you want to start us out there, Rodney?
We have 2 consulting firms here tonight. We have representatives from CIB Planning that I'm promoting to panelist, so they'll be with us momentarily in that role. And we'll start with as I said, we'll start with the presentation from CIB Planning, and then after that we'll have the presentation from the second consulting firm, Mission North. Both of these are with regards to our request for proposals to update the DDA development plans and tax increment financing plans for the East and the West DDA districts. So with that in mind, I'm going to ask our CIB planning folks to start their video and turn the time over to them.
There we go. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, great.
Good afternoon. I'm Carmen Aventini. I'm the president of CIB Planning. And with me is Elena Moeller-Younger. She is our director of marketing and strategic planning. And just to tell you a little bit about our firm, we are a firm of 5 professionals, and we specialize in planning, economic development, and in marketing. And we're located in the city of Fenton, so we're not all that far away from you. And you've had an opportunity, obviously, to look at our proposal. And as you can tell, we do quite a bit of work with DDAs and CIAs and so forth. We do quite a few plan updates, and we've been doing an awful lot of them lately. But we also provide ongoing assistance to DDAs too, to help them implement the things that are in their plan, and also help them with development projects. That's one of the things that we really look forward to, which is implementation. The other thing that I'd like to point out from our proposal is that we have significant experience working with taxing jurisdictions that have attempted to opt out of the DDA plans or plans. And why is this important to you? Because yours both expire next year. And what we found lately is that communities are becoming more and more concerned about tax capture, tax increment capture, because budgets are getting tighter. And we know that after this pandemic is over, that they're gonna be even tighter for jurisdictions. And they don't always truly understand tax increment financing. It's probably one of the most misunderstood forms of financing out there. And so we feel it's part of our job as professionals to not only sell them on the plan updates, but also to educate them as to why this is critical. It's an important thing to stay involved. We've been doing this for probably 15 years, and we did show you some of the experience in our proposal based on the opt-outs that we've encountered or potential opt-outs. So I think we've gotten to the point where we know what kind of discussion is important to have. We know how to be prepared for those. And as a result, we've been very successful working in some very challenging counties in particular. The thing you got to keep in mind is a lot of the desire to not be involved in tax increment financing has come from counties. Not all counties, but some counties. One of the more challenging ones over the years has been Oakland County, and we've been able to develop a real good rapport with them, but they are still very picky about staying in on DDA plans and CIAs. So, and then also in addition to that, there's an organization called the Michigan Association of Counties, and they have spent a lot of time over the past several years lobbying against tax increment financing. Fortunately, the legislature has pretty much left it alone right now, but they do plan on revisiting in the not too distant future. I know because I'm trying to get on the working committee that they're going to establish that will take a look again at the tax increment financing law. So another thing I want to point out too, I hope it came out in the proposal, is we're also looking to use DDA plans very creatively for financing. About 5 years ago, we came up with the idea of using future tax increment capture to help incentivize specific projects. As you know, many of the projects that we look at working with DDAs is they end up having to redevelop a site, or there might be a certain portion of the funding that just doesn't make sense, and there's what we call a gap in the financing. So rather than have to wait over a certain amount of time to be able to capture those taxes, that tax increment, and then use it, the deal could be long gone. So we came up with a process whereby we can commit future tax increment to close the gap in a project and get it redeveloped through a development agreement. And then what we do is we don't borrow the money, meaning the community or the DDA, or in this case, your organization. What you do is we have the developer borrow the money. And then when they pay their taxes each year, then we basically rebate the money back to them. And it's all handled through a development agreement. So what it does is it puts you at zero risk. It gives you a very good tool to help make projects happen. And it ends up being a win-win. You can do things that otherwise you couldn't do. And that's one of the tools that we would like to put in your plan, and we've been putting into plans. It's been very well received by communities. and DDAs, CIAs, and so forth. And we think is a really good tool. It's also been something that's been widely accepted by the counties. They're much more in favor of project-specific development. And I think ultimately when we have a change in the law, we're going to see that being something that's included in there too. So one other point that just to show you how important this is moving forward to include this tool, MEDC actually gave us a grant to develop for a community an application to review requests in your community for this funding, and then allows you to evaluate them based on this criteria. It was set up as a model and is something that we can transfer over to you so that you can use it. It was intended to be kind of like I said, a model that other communities could also use. So we think it's, when you go back for your, to get your plans readopted and get new projects included in there, we think it's really critical that you do it right the first time, okay? The most challenging opt-outs that I've dealt with were the ones where we didn't have all the answers right up front. So going in there, dealing with them, you have to be very prepared and have all the answers that they're going to have, and push hard to build support. There's obviously some work you do behind the scenes, working with the elected officials and so forth. But we've dealt with that, and we feel we have a pretty good game plan to help you through that process. One of the other things that I think is a key feature of our proposal is we are including a training session for you on tax increment financing. I've explained to you one of the newer tools that we've been using. There are other things that we do within the plan that help make your tax increment financing more effective and your plan more effective. And what I'll do is I'll do a training session with you for you on the board and anyone else you want to have involved. If you want township board members, or you want it to be open to the public, whoever, they can also attend. It would be in a virtual session like this. So we think you'd find that really interesting. It would certainly help you better understand some of the things we'd be talking about as we go through the plan update process and look at projects that you're interested in doing. So the other thing I want to point out before I turn it over to Elena too is with the work that we do, DDA plans, we don't really do DDA plans just to do DDA plans, okay? We do DDA plans because we want to see projects implemented and projects developed. That's why we do them. So we want to give you the tools that you can use to make projects happen, and we're always there as a resource. For example, one community, we attend all their monthly meetings, their DDA meetings, and we help them in an ongoing basis to help implement their projects. So whether it's once a year or once every 3 years, whatever, we're always there to help after the plan is adopted. So what I'll do now is I will turn it over to Elena to talk a little bit about the public involvement and marketing, and then I'll finish up with some closing comments.
All right, well, thanks, Carmen. Hi, everybody. I am Elena Moeller-Younger. I'm the Director of Marketing and Strategic Planning for CIB, as Carmen said earlier. And just a little bit about what I'll talk about involves public involvement, which is very important, and a little bit about marketing and branding, which was listed as the optional task within the RFP. But just real quickly, just to kind of summarize what we're thinking about when it comes to public involvement with a process like this. As a company, we really believe that the more input from the community, and especially the business community and the business owners, the better. So we really do want to see that feedback on what improvements can be made. We want to know what the future vision is for the community. And part of that is through vision sessions and SWOT analysis, which can take a couple of different forms. Obviously, if we can do that virtually or in person. But those are some of the public involvement and engagement projects or part of the tasks that would be involved with this that we really think are necessary for something like this. And that would, of course, some of the input from that would help with that optional marketing and branding strategy that we would put together for the community. What we would do is probably during the SWOT session and some of those visioning sessions, we would get a good feel for the unique assets within the community We would do some of our own research into the demographics. And basically what we would do is provide some definitions of marketing goals and objectives. We'd identify your key target audience members, and then we develop some key messages, probably something along the lines of an economic development brand formation and positioning statement. And then we would talk about tactics and strategies to spread the word and awareness, and get some of those folks who we believe will help the community within the community and get them to know the community better, and potentially set up shop there. So, you know, and also we've got some tactics and some strategies to help recruit businesses as well. So just wanted to sort of summarize some of the work that I will be doing and some of that optional project opportunities that we can provide.
And just in closing, one other point on the public involvement, and we do include a survey in here. We're going to survey the business community. I mean, we think it's really important not only to have the business community involved, but also moving forward to continue allowing you to remain in contact with them. What are things that you can do in the future moving forward to stay in touch with the business owners and maintain those lines of communications, especially as you're working on different projects moving forward. I know I'm particularly sensitive to that. This company's been in place for 8 years. This is the 4th company I've been involved in starting over my career. So I am a small businessman and very sensitive to small business issues and so forth. So I think with our marketing strategy, I think we're going to be able to open up or maintain lines of communication with the business owners moving forward. And I think that's just another key feature that could come out of this process. It's not always just the plan, it's the process you go through and the results you come up with at the end that matters most. The plan, I can tell you the plan is a legal document, okay? And we've got techniques as to how to keep it just a legal document and be able to take all the other wonderful things you want to do and put them into a separate working document. And we've done that with a number of communities very successfully. So it's just as you may know, you may not know, because I think you haven't been through this process, but the adoption process for the DDA plans is quite arduous. It's lengthy, it's detailed. You can't miss a step. It doesn't have to be as difficult as it is, but it is. So we try to just meet the requirements of the law, put the tools in there, you know, and keep all the other great stuff that we do in an outside document separate from that. So just in closing, we would really like to do this project with you. This is one of the things we do, and we think really well, and we've been doing it for a long time. And as you can hopefully tell from our qualifications and our proposal that we put together. So if you have any other questions, Rodney, or the members of the board, we'll be happy to answer them.
What does the timetable look like, Carmen, for getting the project from where we are now to a place where we would be?
That's a great question. We would obviously look to begin as soon as possible, because when you're dealing with tax increment financing, especially with taxing jurisdictions, you don't know exactly how long it will take. We hope it doesn't take long, but if there's extra hand-holding involved, it can extend it out. So we'd want to initiate the process right away. And it'd be nice to have everything completed by no later than probably midsummer, because once again, going through the adoption process just takes some time, and there are very specific steps to follow. And also, if we're looking at a citizens advisory committee, we want to get that up and running too. So I'd say probably mid next year, just to give ourselves a cushion. We have, you know, I know it says December, you really have till the end of the year to be able to finally put it in place. So you got an extra month, or wait, no, that's right, it is December 31st. So you've got till the end of next year, but we want to have that fudge factor. And I mean, we've done plans where we started like in July, and we just barely made the end of the year, but it wasn't quite as thoughtful a process as we would have liked, but we were able to do it. But yeah, we've got the luxury of doing it right and still finishing it up by like midsummer.
Okay, so we're doing good as far as the timetable. We're not pressured extremely. Are there many times that you run into delay roadblocks that come up, like you had mentioned with the counties can be sometimes a hurdle?
They used to be, when we first did these, they were, because we weren't, it's one of those, there's certain things that can't beat experience. And we had experience going through the one community I pointed out, in the city of Wixom. We went in with a great plan and it made tons of sense, but it didn't meet the county's criteria for opting in, for staying in. So they turned it down, even though staff recommended approval. They turned it down and it took us a whole year to finally get them to come around. And actually what they did is, based on our proposal, they changed their criteria. And I think they're still using that criteria. So we learned. So that's the only one that we've done where we've had that problem. Ever since then, we've been able to head it off at the pass and keep things in line. So we think we're pretty good at it.
We're operating just in a little different atmosphere than we have been. And that's why I'm asking the question, because knowing what has happened in the past and not knowing what might take place because of the communications we're having here and the meetings that we might have to hold in order to complete the hurdles that we have to clear. I
Mhm.
didn't know if that would cause, I know we can't speculate on how that might affect it, but just giving us a little more cushion, I think is good to hear. That's good to hear.
Yes, definitely. It's a great point. We're
Thank you.
be worried about that.
Reading through your proposal, I'm just down at section 8, down at the bottom there, right by the budget. Is that true then, when one of the things going forward, and you've spent a lot of time talking about it, so I assume this is probably the case, but just to be sure, basically everybody can opt out when we renew this plan. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes, the two key factors in opting out are, number one, expansion of the district boundaries, and number two is extension of the capture timeframe. And you're going to meet two of those with one of the districts, the East District, potentially, and you're going to meet the other one with the West, which is the extension of the district. We know some counties have been looking for a sharing of the tax increment dollars. That's one of the things that we look out for. That's become more popular, but we try to keep that from happening, and that's why we want to have really strong arguments and strong projects so that we don't run into that and that doesn't happen.
So again, to be clear, that is one of the things as we rewrite or extend our plans, both the East and West DDAs are basically going to be in a position that any of the taxing jurisdictions that we take capture money from, they have the ability to opt out of those. Is that correct? Every one of them?
Yes, that is correct. If you have a library tax capture in there, you can count on them opting out. Did they do that already?
Yeah, and one, we had a bond issue, just got paid off a year and a half ago, and they haven't come around after that. But yeah, we don't have any bond issues. So yeah, okay. That's obviously why you've spent a lot of time on the presentation, because that's only important. There may not be any money to divvy up.
Yeah, the counties are really the leaders when it comes to staying in or staying out. The counties really take the lead in our mind. When we did the project for Meridian Township, we had 5 very challenging taxing jurisdictions to work with, and we were able to get 4 of them on board. The one was the library; we couldn't get them to stay in, but the airport did. The community college stayed in. The county stayed in, and the treasurer recommended approval. And the treasurer was the one who actually wrote a book on why tax increment financing is bad. So, we, and I've seen the book. And so it was very challenging. You aren't likely to go anywhere near that type of a response. I highly doubt it. Many years ago, I did planning work for the county. I was actually acting as their, I think it was, we did their master plan many years ago with a previous firm I was with. And so I know the county and I know the structure pretty well, but the people have obviously changed. But it's likely to be different than, and hopefully different than you would find in, you know, places like Oakland County or Ingham County and places like that. And, you know, so we're anticipating that we'll get a little bit of warmer response, but we also want to be very well prepared. We absolutely don't want to miss the mark with this. It's critical that we hit it the first time around, and that we, and that's one of the other benefits of having done so many of these projects, is we know what a lot of the questions will be, and we know what answers to have prepared for them too. Because the worst thing that can happen here is you go in and they opt out. I mean, that's like the absolute worst, that you can't have that happen.
So with that, my suggestion would be is that we go ahead and have our other presentation. We will have more, you'll have more time and more opportunity to ask both consulting firms other questions. But I do want to make sure we give the Mission North folks plenty of opportunity. Is there any objection to doing that?
No.
Nope. Could I jump in, Randy? What we'll do is we'll just turn our volume off and stuff. And I don't know if there's a way to we'll keep the video on, just wave or something when you're done, and I'll, that way we'll know to come back on if you need us.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to promote the other our Mission North folks, and then I will move Carmen and Elena back to attendees.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Hi.
So,
Hello.
I'm sorry, go ahead. We have a presentation, if it's possible to show that. I don't know if it's something we can do.
Yes, yeah, as a panelist, you can share your screen.
Okay, great. All right, then we're just going to run through this presentation real quick. And there's Kathleen. She just popped up. Let me see if I can get this. Can everyone see the screen?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet. All right.
Oh, I got to share screen.
How's
There
that?
we go. Now
There we go. Okay, great. Well, again, thank you for giving us the opportunity to propose on this project. My name is Rob Bacigalupi, and there we go. And let me just introduce myself and Kathleen. I'm with Mission North, and I'm just, I've been doing this for a few years. We're located in Traverse City, and we specialize in economic development. And we also do some, just to mix things up a little bit, we also do some parking studies. So we're doing economic development and parking studies. And then Kathleen Duffy is from Smith Group, and she is located in Ann Arbor, and she is an expert in many things, including planning and zoning. And she has done a lot of economic development, redevelopment work. And she also kind of wrote the book on remote engagement. She just recently did a training session with the Michigan Association of Planners on that. So she's pretty well versed in that. And then Smith Group is also a large firm, and they've got the ability to do cost estimating. So they're going to kind of help out with that part of the work. So, you know, our understanding, of course, is that you have two districts. You've got an East and West district, and both plans are expiring. And you've done some strategic planning for both districts, the East and the West, and you've got a good short and long-term list for both plans. You want to extend the plans and kind of incorporate the work that you've done, the strategic planning, into some new plans. Obviously, part of that is includes engagement. So invariably, as we engage stakeholders and residents, Other projects might pop up, so those will be incorporated into the plan. And then, of course, you'd like to expand the boundaries of the East District. So that's also something that is part of the scope. DDA plans themselves, of course, are a very important part of redevelopment all over the state of Michigan, communities all over the state of Michigan. Originally, way back when, they were more kind of solely infrastructure related. They would include streetscapes and public projects. And now, of course, the role has expanded. The legislature has loosened up what you can use them for, and communities have responded by expanding how they use them, which is great. One of the things that we will help you do, it's one thing to identify the plan, identify a project, kind of figure out when it's going to happen and how much it might cost, but it's also important to figure out, who's going to take charge of that project and do it. In some cases, it might be you and your staff. In other cases, you might just be providing funding for other agencies. So it's important just kind of, figure out who is actually going to be doing the work. Obviously, we'll want to coordinate with other township plans. I imagine you've already done that a little bit with your strategic planning work that you did earlier this year. But of course, we're going to look at those plans and make sure that if there are any township priorities that we want to make sure are in the plan, we get those into the plan. And of course, we want to ask the question, is the plan regionally beneficial? How does it benefit the region? And of course, that ties into the fact that you're using tax increment financing, and the county is, of course, a big contributor to that. So you want to make sure that folks, both at the at the county board and at the county staff, but also the people out in the county, the residents, they can understand, they can see the benefit and they can understand the benefit. And in getting to the answer to that question, how is it regionally beneficial? That of course means that we need to ask, we need to reach out to regional partners. That of course includes the county themselves, but also we're going to get a lot of that from other regional partners such as the Middle Michigan Development Corporation, the Chamber, the Tribal EDC, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and of course also the road agencies, the Road Commission, and the Michigan Department of Transportation. So those regional agencies and state agencies are of course critical to hearing what their needs are, what their concerns are, what their questions are, and then being able to address them and answer them through the process. And then of course another partnership or another group that will be engaged, of course, is the Development Area Citizens Council, which you will have to create in order to pursue the expansion of the district. And it'll be good to hear from them what their neighborhood needs are, and then help address that in the plan. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kathleen, and she's going to talk about engagement.
Great. Thanks, Rob. I'm Kathleen Duffy. Hello. I helped Peter and staff on creating your master plan a couple years ago while I was at my previous firm. So I'm very familiar with your community and all of the challenges that go with getting public engagement, especially during this challenging time. Like Rob said, our firm is leading the way on remote engagement tools. And so to make sure that we get the best feedback that we can from the business leaders, you yourselves as an EDA, and then also as with the public as well, we want to make sure that we deploy a set of tools that gets the right input at the right time. So we have a number of products that we found that have actually increased participation from folks during this work from home virtual world. So whether it's in a meeting like this, engaging with software that lets you have live polling, using Poll Everywhere, where we can ask some specific questions and get your feedback on those in real time, using mapping to really understand where all of the identified projects are that you've already laid out, but also where people would like to see maybe more investment in the future. So using our GIS platform for some interactive mapping, embedding surveys directly into the website that people can fill out or that we can direct them to during our in-person sharing sessions, and then also using online brainstorming tools. So this is Mural here over on the right, which lets us kind of replicate the brainstorming, sticky note kind of dot voting, reacting to concepts and ideas in real time through a whiteboard application. A little bit more about, next slide, Rob, how we then my role on the project is to help really tie things and that local understanding that we have from the master plan, and understanding how two different areas of the township, separated by Mount Pleasant, how do we get them to, remain independent, but also think strategically about the township as a whole. And so connecting strategies back to the master plan, understanding you have your new zoning ordinance as well, and making sure that this is just an extension of that, is this next implementation steps that you need. So my role at Smith Group, I was with LSL Planning prior when we were updating your master plan, but I've been with Smith Group for 3 years now, having worked with them for 12 as a partner. Is what we bring to the table is this idea of going from planning all the way through implementation. So not only do we write master plans, but working on these kind of DDA projects and corridor projects is a way for us to directly think about those both redevelopment projects on the private side as well as public infrastructure improvements. So being a design firm, we do everything. And so thinking about from day one, looking at your projects, figuring out what they're going to cost, getting buy-in, prioritizing, but also we know what it takes to design them, whether it's a building, a redevelopment project, an adaptive reuse, or new streetscape. So all the way through construction, we work on things. So I've worked on a number of DDA and CIA plans, and I'm working on several right now. Rob and I are working with a variety of different downtowns throughout Michigan with the Redevelopment Ready Communities program, and are excited to work with you on that. So just wanted to share a couple quick examples of a couple DDAs we're working with right now. So the next slide should be Dearborn. So I actually have a call with Dearborn's DDA tomorrow morning, bright and early, on their vision strategy. So we've had a partnership with Dearborn for quite some time now. Again, two different disconnected DDA districts working together under a brand new umbrella. So you have a bit more experience of being joined under your EDA a bit longer. They just joined under one, but dealing with both the East and the West. These are some examples of input and design, streetscape, implementing new bike lanes, and beautification and streetscape efforts. And if you aren't familiar with what's happening in Dearborn, Ford just built a brand new mixed use development right in the downtown, and we're trying to deal with MDOT and get Michigan Avenue to be a little bit safer. I also wrote a set of facade design guidelines for them that implement their new form-based code that we wrote for them. So a variety of collaborations with their DDA. We really are partners with them on getting stuff built. The next slide shows Ann Arbor. So another place where we have a long-standing DDA partnership. And what we've been doing recently, I was just in Ann Arbor on Sunday, seeing that they setting up temporary areas for people to have outdoor dining. So I know that gets challenging in your township with dealing with Isabella County, but trying to push the envelope, and how can the DDA be a leader in adapting our open and public spaces for that alternative kind of COVID-induced ways of rethinking the public realm a bit. We're working on several street redesign projects with them, and as well as an affordable housing public participation process, which is using some of those online web development tools that we're using. We have a survey and site-specific strategies where the public is chiming in on a few publicly held properties in their DDA where they are trying to build some mixed income housing projects. So just a quick little overview of what I bring to the team with Rob and with my team at home too. I have a big team of other planners and designers that we can tap for expertise. Back to you, Rob.
All right, thanks, Kathleen. Yeah, and just to give you a little idea of what I've been up to lately, I was with the Traverse City Downtown Development Authority up until 2017, end of 2017. But since then, I've been full-time at Mission North. And last year, I worked on a DDA plan, a development plan for the Filer Township DDA, which is a kind of a similar community in a way. It's in just outside of Manistee, and they have a state highway commercial strip DDA, and they had already identified projects. So what I did is I helped them prioritize the projects so that we could put them into the plan in a sequence, and then kind of formalize that into the final plan. And then Kathleen kind of alluded to the work that we've been doing together as part of the Redevelopment Ready Pre-Development Services, which is a Michigan Economic Development Corporation program. And we worked in East Point. We're currently working in Muskegon, but we also just finished up Mount Pleasant. So my role there was to do the market studies. So I'm very, very familiar with the Mount Pleasant market, had to identify a primary market area, and that essentially is the city of Mount Pleasant and Union Township. So very familiar with your community. But before that, I led some consultant teams in Alpena, Petoskey, and Battle Creek. So I've done a lot of those around the state. And then I've also done some work for developers. So I can give the developer perspective. I'm not working for any developers in the Mount Pleasant area, but I'm currently working in Northern Michigan with a developer who is working with the DDA to put together a kind of a landmark project in a downtown in Northern Michigan. So I can bring that perspective to the table. And then of course, before, I kind of launched Mission North full time, being at the DDA in Traverse City, we did, I've done probably at least 10 DDA plan amendments there over the course of a good 15 years. And most recently, worked on a brand new plan for one of the two development areas there, which I can talk about in a little more detail. That would be the Old Town development plan. In this case, it was an existing plan that was expiring, and the DDA let it expire, but we did a whole bunch of engagement. We went out to the neighborhoods. We put together a video to kind of talk about the success of the plan. And then we put together a very robust list of programs and projects for a new plan. And we did, of course, deal with the taxing authorities on that. That was when the legislation was changed to allow libraries to opt out. So the library did opt out, but we worked with the other taxing authorities and made sure that they were happy with the plan. So this plan included things like workforce housing financing. Traverse City was having, it still does have, a shortage of workforce housing. So we put in financing for, to close gaps for housing projects, snow melt systems, broadband, which I see you've identified as a priority, public art and restroom maintenance, mobility services, which is really supporting local transit. Traverse City has a very kind of landmark small town transit service right now because of the partnership between the Downtown Development Authority, the city, and the Bay Area Transportation Authority, and some private employers, including Munson Hospital. And then of course, brownfield eligible expenses, which is something that really you almost have to have it. You really do have to have it in every DDA plan these days, because that sets you up for any brownfield project that might come along. And it makes it easier for developers to go to the state of Michigan and get help from the state. And then of course, we had a lot of the more pedestrian, if you will, things in there, such as park improvements and utility upgrades and bridge improvements and that sort of thing. So again, Kathleen and I just finished up working in Mount Pleasant, And it was really a fantastic project. Their Isabella Bank building downtown and the one next to it, they wanted to do some public engagement to figure out what would be the best use there. And I did the market study, and Kathleen put together the final package. And you can see that the folks at the City of Mount Pleasant were great to work with, and you can see that they really appreciated working with us. And I'll pass it back over to
Sure.
Kathleen to talk a little bit more about how that went.
So this was a great opportunity for us to collaborate. I know Rob mentioned working in Alpena and Battle Creek on a previous slide that incidentally were both downtown pre-DDA update plans that I wrote for the MEDC for Battle Creek and Alpena. So same kind of thing where we go from plan to vision to projects to getting things built. And this is a great example of a project that the RFQ got released yesterday for this. You're probably aware of the Isabella Bank downtown, and our team, including Rob, really brought the goods for them to get some great visuals here to show what it would look like to be restored to its historical past. So really thinking about this as an anchor building in the downtown and how it can help activate the rest. So a privately held building, but we worked hand in hand between the DDA, the city, and Isabella Bank, and some of the tenants that are currently in there on how to best come up with a solution and what type of programming should happen. So just a fun little note to end on here. You can go to the next slide, Rob, on just showing how we really start from the plan and go all the way through to getting things built and working with our architects and understanding the market and how to close the gap and make sure the tools are in place so that things get built.
Yeah, so with that, I just want to wrap up and say we're really excited, about this opportunity to work in Union Township. We feel very strongly that we know Union Township well because we just did work in the Mount Pleasant area. We feel our proposal is efficient and effective, and you get a lot of value out of our team. So we're very excited about the opportunity. And with that, let me just turn that off. Be happy to answer any questions. Must have answered all your questions.
Yeah. Back to you, Rodney.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Rob, and thank you, Kathleen. We will we have an agenda item under new business to go over these both proposals, and so there's certainly, if there are any other questions that come up, they can be addressed at that point. But at this point, we're done with the presentation, so we can move on to the next agenda item. Tom?
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation, Rob. Going on to agenda item number 6. Then with the public comment, do we have anybody on, Rodney?
We do not have any members of the public with us today.
And let's move on to agenda item number 7, reports. Accounts payable approval for September.
Hello, everyone. Let's get started with the accounts payable reports. We have, for the East DDA, we have a couple of consumers payments. One was made in September and one was made in October. The first one was for $592.32, and then the second one was for $618.24. And we have Be Green, payment to Be Green Lawn Services for fertilizer and weed control on Pickard for $1,745. A payment to Black Electric to change out the gateway banners for the East DDA for $150. And we have a water billing payment to the water office for irrigation on Pickard for the third quarter in the amount of $7,130.60. We have a payment to Gordy Frazier for sewer cost estimates on Somerton Road for $260. We have a payment to MMI for the park bench and ground maintenance on Pickard for September. That's in the amount of $1,014.50. And we have a payment to Pleasant Time Herb Farm to water and weed baskets on Pickard and water and weed and remove the hanging baskets at the end of the month. The total for that is $3,173. And then we also have a payment to Price Mini Storage for the annual storage lease in the amount of $550. And we have a payment to Teelan Turf Irrigation to winterize the irrigation system on Pickard for $975. Those payments total $16,208.66. And are there any questions on those? Okay, then I'll move on to the West DDA. We had one check issued to 21st Century Media, which is the Morning Sun, basically, for advertisements related to the West DDA ordinance. And the amount of that check is $433.82. Do we have any questions?
Nope.
Cherry, this is Tom Keequam.
Yep.
Going back to the East DDA, the Gordy Frazier sewer cost estimate for Somerton Road. I don't remember us talking about that and seeking an estimate.
This, I can answer that question. This is an item that came up in our long range projects, and it actually generated a high priority response. This was on when we talked in May and June. This is one of the projects that we looked at, and as I said, it ultimately generated a very strong, favorable response to move ahead. So I asked for the construction estimate because we were looking at budgeting for 2021 potentially, and I wanted to have an idea of what this project might cost. And so that's where this charge came from, was looking at to be able to deal with it from a budget perspective.
Okay, that makes sense. It's I forgot the direct function of the survey results, so that's good homework. Are there any more questions on the East DDA? Hearing none, I'd like to get a motion for the East DDA separate from the West DDA. So can I get a motion to approve the $16,208.66?
I move the motion, Sarvjit.
Support, Smith.
Got a motion by Chowdhury, support by Smith to approve the East DDA payables. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. And motion's carried. And switching over to the West DDA with the one bill.
I move that we pay that bill for the advertisement to the paper.
Support.
Motion by Big. Support by, is that Bacon?
Valid.
Valid.
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. And the West DDA payable is approved. Thank you.
Okay, and then I'll move on to the, September financial reports. Starting with the East DDA. We have the revenues are coming in at approximately 451,000. They're at 87.98% of budget right now. Most of the revenues are posted at this time, except we are still expecting state aid revenue from lost personal property taxes in the amount of 63,000 and additional interest collections for the remainder of the year. And then in the expenditure area, total expenditures right now are at approximately 158,000. We're at 32% of budget there. And I think there'll be some budget amendments coming forth because some of these projects we weren't able to get done. We won't be able to get done in 2020 fiscal year. And then moving on to the balance sheet. As of September 30th, the East DDA has approximately a little over 1.6 million in cash. And right now the ending fund balance would be about 1.6 million. So you basically have about 1.6 million to spend on projects at this time as of the end of September 30th. Are there any questions on the East DDA financials?
Looks good to me.
Okay, moving on to the West DDA financials. In the revenue area, we have approximately 336,000 in revenues. We're at just a little over 100%, 101% of budget there. In the expenditure area, we are up to 134,200 in expenditures. And those expenditures are at 25% of budget right now. And again, we'll probably be doing a budget amendment. In the amended budget there for 2020 is the 330,000 for that Lincoln Road project south of the bridge. It doesn't look like that's going to be done this year. So we'll be doing another budget amendment before the end of the year to modify these budgets based on project completion and things like that. And then moving on to the West DDA balance sheet. You have about 1.2 million in cash and fund balance in the West DDA to spend on future projects. Are there any questions on that?
Why is the delay for the south part of the Lincoln?
I can address that. The question about the Road Commission's project on South Lincoln Road, the issue is basically the Road Commission is simply not ready to get started yet. They are still working out some details. They have about a half dozen easements for additional right-of-way that they still need to acquire, where they have property owners that have not been cooperative. And so they are in the process of seeking those by other means, including eminent domain if necessary. But that's the main reason for the delay, is the need for some additional easements.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay,
Okay,
thank you, Sherry.
thank you.
So let's let the record show the September financial reports were received for the month of September and filed. Agenda 7C in your packet, you have the board member expiration matrix. Keep an eye on your expiration date. And moving on to item 8, new business. Got these requests for EDA board action items to discuss. You want to take us there, Rodney?
Well, certainly the first item on your list is takes us back to our presentations. This is a request to evaluate the two proposals that you have before you and to select your preferred consulting firm to assist you and assist staff with the process of preparing and adopting updated DDA development plans and tax increment financing plans for both DDA districts. You have the packets are both in your package. You have both proposals. Of course, we've heard from both consulting firms. We did prepare a request for EDA board action that's dated October 15th. That should be in your packet. And as part of that, we did evaluate the proposals. Both of the firms met all the requirements that were asked of them in our request for proposals. They are both qualified to do the work that is before you to do in terms of updating these plans. There is a significant difference in cost between the two proposals, with the Mission North project coming in as the low bidder. If the price is the only measuring stick we use, they certainly are the more attractive option. As I said, they are significantly lower in price than the CIB planning proposal. You have our evaluation in the request for board action. As we noted, we looked at these from a number of perspectives, including the completeness of the package, the price, responsiveness of the firm, the attention to detail, feedback, and a number of other potential factors. And we have kind of a bullet point list there of a number of things we noted. That I can certainly answer any questions you may have about it. I won't go through them individually. I will say that overall, we found the CIB planning proposal to be the most responsive to not only our request for proposals, but really looking at the specific needs we have in this community. We were talking earlier about taxing jurisdictions. We actually have one outside taxing jurisdiction, and that is the county. There are several property taxes that we capture, but they're all county related. So they are our audience essentially for this process. The other agency that we capture from is the township itself. So in our evaluation, we do recommend CIB planning be selected, and we recognize they're not the low bidder. But it's my opinion as a community economic development director that CIB planning's proposal most completely fits the needs of the township and our DDA districts at this time. So with that in mind, I'm happy to answer any questions. As I said, our both firms are with us still, and so you're welcome to. They can unmute themselves and you can ask any other questions you have of them. But at this point, my recommendation is to evaluate both proposals and to identify the firm that you would prefer to work with.
Discussion?
Yeah, Rodney, I appreciate the recommendation, and I'm wondering, based on the difference in the pricing, if there were any specific things that you recognized as value to help compensate for that additional pricing. I understand you're saying that the encompassing concept, it sounds like in the whole details that are attended to, but I'm asking you if you can be a little more specific in the benefits that you saw to reach that conclusion.
I certainly can. Interesting. One of them is, in my opinion, related to the potential pitfalls. You heard the potential challenges that can come up with extending these tax increment financing plans. And in particular, you heard about the potential for greater potential for counties to consider opting out. What I found as I was looking at the two proposals was that the CIB planning proposal addressed that directly. Now, they noted that some of what they may need to do would be an additional cost. If they've run into challenges, that there may be additional costs associated with resolving those. That's if you look in their proposal, that's the item number 8. And while it may be unusual to look at a case where potential additional costs are positive, as a consultant, as having worked in the consulting world for many years, I have great respect for a firm that's willing to put out there, here's what we're going to do, here's what's going to cost, and here's where there may be additional costs based on our evaluation of the issues. We hope, and with any of these proposals, you always hope they're not going to be additional costs, but actually I have great respect for CIB planning for identifying that, because that is something that they could have simply glossed over. And then we would have run into it down the road and suddenly found ourselves having unforeseen costs. Beyond that, I found the Mission North proposal, as I said, both firms are solid. Both firms can do this work. Both firms have all the competencies to do the work. I found that the Mission North proposal was a bit thin on the details. And one of the challenges you have working with a consultant is holding their feet to the fire. And so to make sure that you get exactly what you want done. For example, we have a circumstance with a prior consultant on a prior project where some mapping data was promised and was it was not written down that they would provide it, but it was promised. And it was never provided. I just had a conversation today with our GIS mapping expert who to let me know that we never got that data. And so I'm going to see if we can get it. Now it's a couple of years after the fact, but the fact it wasn't written down in their proposal to provide that data meant in the end, they really don't have an obligation to do it. So whatever's written down in this proposal, we can hold their feet to the fire to make sure it gets done. And between the two proposals, I liked the detail that was in the CIB proposal. They say specifically what they're going to do in all areas of the project, and so that gives us the ability to, as I said, to hold their feet to the fire to make sure they actually do what they say they're going to do. Both firms are going to meet all the requirements that apply. They both say specifically that they will meet the state law requirements. But ultimately, one of the other things that drew my attention was that in the request for proposals, the request referenced repeatedly the Economic Development Authority as the guiding body, public body for this project. Your role was prominently part of that request for proposals. The CIB planning proposal reflects that. The Mission North proposal proposed a separate steering committee. And I'm not faulting the steering committee. There are good reasons in some cases to have a separate committee that might involve members of this group, members of the Board of Trustees, side members of the public or business owners. But in looking at the needs of this board and this community, it was my opinion in writing the request that it would be best to simply work with you as EDA board, that you are the steering committee, and you function very well in that role. And so the Mission North proposal didn't respond to that. They went a different direction. So together, for those reasons, I found ultimately the CIB planning proposal to be the best choice for the township at this time.
So what is the price tag difference?
It's in the request for proposals, our memo under costs on the last page. The CIB planning cost proposal, it has a budget for all the required items of $29,926, so just under $30,000. They had also recommended some optional elements that you certainly can choose to do. They're not part of what we recommended be approved at this time, but the required elements are $29,926. The Mission North Smith Group proposal has a project budget of $16,760.
But there's quite a bit difference.
There is quite a bit of difference there, yes.
I think that Rodney addressed some of that, Sav, when he was talking about the potential addition of costs that were maybe going to arise because of the dealings we were going to have with potentially with the county on trying to keep everybody in together in this tax increment capturing financing. And so I think that, am I wrong in addressing that, Rodney, in that way?
No, you are correct, yes.
So I think that, you may see a lot of difference in the numbers, Saab, but I think you're looking at the numbers only and not at what might be actually done. And if that wasn't done, I think that could lower the potential. And Rodney's just saying, look, if that does come up, we already know what we're going to have to deal with in dealing with that. And I think he's mentioning that as a positive. So to look at the numbers completely, I think is overlooking what not only Rodney as our representative and our person that's economic development authority expert is suggesting that that's an important issue to consider.
But there are two, three things. One, they have worked with North people, as Rodney said, they have worked with us in the past. They are working with the county or city, so they are familiar with this area. And probably you may ask some more clarification from their proposal, see how they can come closer to that. Because sometimes they may have not explained what they are going to do it. And as Rodney said, this proposal is better than them, but maybe ask little clarification because there is a lot of difference in price.
I agree with your saying about their expertise and also their particular knowledge of the downtown project and their experience with us at Union Township in the past. I think that both, like Rodney is saying, are excellent, top-notch firms, organizations, but I don't doubt that CIB has every bit as much experience in dealing with the communities of our size and the details that we're going to be dealing with in particular, and those experience that might be relevant to what you're talking about regarding Mount Pleasant. I think that they have crossed those options or those situations in many other situations that they've come across just because it's not necessarily Mount Pleasant. But so I think that is a benefit to some degree, but I do think that CIB has those same qualifications. Just because Smith Group has had somebody work here before I don't think that's the tipping, because I think CIB has had those similar experiences elsewhere. I think what we're looking at is the overall package that's being presented. And I'm hearing Rodney and the points that he made and the differences of what was presented in the presentation as highly important in our decision making.
I'm just looking at, the CIB Section 8 optional taxing jurisdiction that says to go here, and basically, for the extra money, it seems like all we're getting told is that if you do have problems negotiating with the county, we'll come in and charge you an hourly rate, which is what?
The hourly rate was part of their original
I know for this project, but it says, if for some reason we have problems with the county wanting to opt out, that this says go to optional taxing jurisdiction assistance, unforeseen tasks. I mean, basically, aren't we paying rate? Isn't the whole point of this is to get somebody who negotiates on our behalf with the county?
That certainly is an important component of the project.
I would think that was the most important point. Mm-hmm. But it says basically if any additional assistance we need would be charged upon our regularly hour rates as identified therein, which doesn't really tell me anything.
So I have a hand raised from Carmen Aventini from CIB Planning. Would you like me to
yes, please.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you. Just a point of clarification. The option 8, the only reason that that's in there is just kind of a precautionary statement, because I know with Ingham County, I mean, we spent over $100,000 getting all of the, agreements worked out with them, and a lot of it was unforeseen. But we've included in our budget, we gave you a very detailed budget where all our time will go, and we've included in there all of the preparation and materials we need to make a really strong argument with the county. And so we did anticipate that is included in there. That statement down there is just more of a kind of a protection, because you just never know what will come up. But our goal is we don't want to enter into that number 8. We want to get you
hopefully not. No, hopefully not. Because the whole point of this isn't just to take money from the county and give it to you guys.
Right.
I'd hate to see $100,000 bill.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, when I was, and to go along with that, Bob, when I was listening to Carmen's presentation, I thought what he was trying to address was the idea that if we lay this out in a good logical fashion that makes a lot of sense, and we have a lot of people included in the way it goes, that things should go much smoother, and we get people on board before we get to the point and say, here's what we've decided. Would you like to think about it?
That is why we're having outside.
That's what I'm. That is
why we're having outside people look at this. Yes.
Right. So I'm thinking that they are trying to address that we don't have to go to that option. I think that's what I was getting from the first presentation I heard. I have been saying a lot of positive things about CIB. I do think that Smith Group is an excellent organization. I do think that one of the benefits that CIB has to offer that I can see right here in this meeting that we've been having is that Carmen is the owner operator and put this group together. And he's given us a very hands-on presentation, and right here with us. And I sense that he has a more of a real good sense for the small operation. And I, see us as a smaller community, and that seems to be a benefit in my mind as well.
Just to clarify, Rob is a small entity as well. He brought me on for my expertise, but Smith Group's not in charge of the other competing proposal. So he's a small shop as well.
Yeah, I guess looking at there's a lot of details that I'm not familiar with. I understand a little bit, about what the objectives are, but the one thing I strongly favor is using the EDA as the steering committee and working within that frame. And I think if you start bringing other people, members from the township board, certainly I don't have a problem expanding our role or inviting people to come in. But we're the ones that have set up the priorities and the current vision. And my fears are with the steering committee is we'll just become a piggy bank. And then there'll be time spent on, well, where'd you come up with this, and list of projects, and I've got a concern on another agenda item later in there about that happening. So one, I appreciate the using the EDA board. We've got a lot of very, very capable people on that board, and I think they represent the community well. I don't want to exclude anybody who wants to participate, but by the same token, I think we should be in the lead. That's why we're on the board. So that's my one thing that sticks out. And the fact CIB made a point of just saying up front, and North Mission mentioned, did bring it up. But that, yeah, part of this process, if it isn't going to make do any good, if we extend our DDAs and Isabella County says, nah, we're not participating, we're out of here. Then there's no, we can go to the township board, but that's about it. So the fact that they spent a lot of time, right, that was the focus. There's a reason that was. So right now, I can't tell you what, the value is there, but I like CIB's approach better. And I guess they have my support at this time.
I will take that as a recommendation as well.
Any more discussion? I know this is Tom Keekwam. My take on it, I did think the Mission North, the presentation and the packet was a little light. I think they're both completely qualified. I've worked direct with the Smith Group before with the Saginaw Chippewa tribe. Everybody seems capable, but in all this conversation, kind of following, I can understand what Jim Zalid and Rodney are saying. My biggest worry is just to keep this project streamlined and simple. And let's just get it done. And for that reason, I kind of like the North Mission thin proposal, but I also understand, but the price actually seems low, too low to me to get the project done properly. And so I also stand with Rodney's recommendation, or whatever that is worth as a chairman.
No, I think we should take a little bit more, maybe clarification from North Mission about the project, because there is Tom, there is a lot of difference. 16 and 29, $13,000 difference. That's what my concern is.
You know, what I left it out of my comments, but I think I'll just mention it here. In my evaluation, I did include a line that I considered whether to include it, but I think it's worth mentioning. It says it is the opinion of the director, this on page 2 in the middle, is opinion of the director that the differences between the two proposals are similar to the differences between a higher end Buick automobile and a more entry-level Chevy. Both are automobiles, both are very functional, both made by the same manufacturer, but the one has far more functionality to it. One may be a higher quality materials or higher quality construction. It's not we're not talking about a difference between a Mercedes and a Chevy. They're both affordable automobiles, but there's a difference in the value that you have when you purchase the higher end Buick versus purchasing the entry level or stripped down Chevrolet. It's a very rough analogy, but I think it has some value here to consider that the two proposals are going after the same work, but as was mentioned, one is somewhat thin, and the other has the detail in it to give us confidence that we can hold their feet to the fire to get the work done the way they say they're going to do it. There was a comment about Tom, I think you said about concern about the cost, and I mentioned that in my information as well about the potential for hidden costs. And as I said, as a consultant for many years, who's written a lot of these kinds of proposals, that it is a concern of mine that the cost for the Mission North seems a little thin to do the work that we actually need to have done for this particular community in these two DDA districts.
So Mike Smith, do you have any comments?
Yeah, given the short time that we had to do it and the way we have to do business, today, I think you really got to rely heavily on Rodney's opinion and his expertise to help us make these decisions. I'm not an expert on these. I would need more time to, dive into both things, meet the people, and actually do the research. Well, it sounds like Rodney has done all that in the past, so I don't feel overqualified. I feel very comfortable with his dissertation on his comments recommending CIB. Both seem very professional companies. I was also like Mission North working with the synergies of Mount Pleasant, but again, any professional company can come in and do that. So just based on my facts, the short time that we have to do it without in the state and the way we have to do business today, I would have to go with Rodney and his expertise in steering this board with his past consultant information. And I thought it was well written. I also knew there was a price difference, but I felt it was justified in his statement. So I too would go with the recommendation of CIB based on Rodney's proposal.
Dave Coyne, you joined us late. Do you get to look at the proposals at all, or any opinion?
Oh, Dave, you're muted at the moment.
Hey, Dave, you're on mute.
I've asked him to unmute.
Okay, I did not get to look at it. I'm sorry. I've been babysitting my grandson and kind of got off, and between his naps and working on other projects, I just dawned on me. I had a meeting this morning with the Friends of Isabella County. I'm on that board, and that started out early, and then I just slipped my mind. I had it on my notes and everything, but no, I didn't get to look at it. I'm sorry.
Okay. It seems like there's momentum by the majority of the board to go with Rodney's recommendation. I would just assume us get this done tonight so we can keep this ball going, because we're running out of time, and every month to month, we're going to lose a couple more months. But with that, I'd be willing to entertain a motion by somebody.
I would like to make a motion that I appreciate the idea that we are getting short on time. And I think that we should make a motion to accept the proposal by CIB for redoing our east and west DDAs and the future plan use. And we can get moving on.
Marty, if I may, if I could ask you to, there's at the end of the request, either at the beginning or the end of our memo, under action requested, there's a format there, and this will help Amy with her minutes if you can use it. It starts out to select, so you could do motion to select, and then just there's a line there to put in CIB planning if that's your motion, and then just read the rest of it. That way we get it in the minutes accurately.
Okay, well, I don't have that right in front of me, so I'll let somebody else make that motion.
All right, Bacon here.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Bacon here. I move that we select CIB to serve as the consultant to provide the required services as described in the project scope of services or scope of work section of the firm's detailed cost proposal for updating the East-West DDA development and tax increment financing plans, and to authorize Township Manager Mark Struder to sign a service agreement with the firm for these services.
I support.
Any more discussion?
How do you want to handle, it's in the motion, but I would say we probably want to leave them not to exceed the $29,926 and not include the optional at this point.
The motion just refers to the required scope of work, but you certainly can add that.
No, Rodney, you tell me if the motion it's presented here and we've made it. Obviously we always have the option to come back to it, but I guess I just wanted it clear to the group, to the board, if it included, if the recommendation is going to just the base budget, or does it include the optional 5580?
It does not, but I would not object at all to the addition at the end of the sentence of not to exceed the $29,926.
Okay, thank you.
So, Bob Bacon, that amendment.
That was my intention, to cap it at the $29,000, not the extra $5,000. That was the intention when I made the motion. Yes.
Okay, you okay with that, Marty?
Yes.
Any more comment? All in favor of Bacon's motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. And the motion is approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We look forward to working with you, and we'll get this rolling right away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We want to continue on to agenda item 8B, another request for board action. Want to walk us through that one, Rodney, please?
I will. This is our updated rate schedule for our snow plowing services. Doug's Small Engine Repair has been plowing the snow in the sidewalks in the East EDA district every winter for the last several years. We do not have a current service agreement with him. The work was done last year based on an extension. I went to the owners this summer and asked them to give us an updated, basically an updated rate schedule that we could bring before you. And I asked them to look at two options, the per plow option that they have been doing. And I also asked them to just look at a flat rate option where we pay a monthly rate basically for a certain number of months for the service, regardless of the number of times that they plow. The reason I did that is just for invoicing. If that's an easy way to handle payments, if the cost is right. Sometimes that kind of flat rate option actually has a good value to it because they have a guarantee of so much money, and they essentially take the risk that they might have a very heavy snow year. So they did provide the bid that you have, the rate schedule, in your packet. It has two options, the per plow option of $700, which is the same as what they did this past year. And then they provided a per month option of $2,500 per month for the months of November through March. So in the request for board action, I give you an evaluation or recommendation on that. I also included the information on how much we paid in prior years for this service, going back to 2016. And that's ranged from a low of $2,000, a very light snow year, to a high of $10,000, which was last year's amount. And so with that in mind, it's a recommendation of staff that the per plow rate of $700 per event be accepted. Basically, no change to what we're doing, what they've been doing. That per plow rate of $700 be accepted for the upcoming year. And again, that the EDA board authorized that a service agreement be signed. The one thing that Doug Small Engine Repair asked for was to have a 3-year service agreement. So that would be the term would be for 3 years at this rate of $700 per plow for the sidewalk snow plowing service. And so with that in mind, I'm happy to answer any questions about it.
Well, he's a member of the East EDA, done it for a long time, and I've heard very few complaints. So I'd move that we approve the motion as presented.
I'll second it.
So this is I just read it so we get it on the record?
That's fine. That's my intent. I could have read it, but yeah.
So the resolution is to accept the per plow rate of $700 for Doug Small Engine Repair to provide sidewalk snow plowing services in the East EDA district along the East Pickard Road corridor through 12/31/2023, subject to annual appropriation, and to authorize Township Manager Mark Stuhldreher to sign a service agreement for these services.
So moved.
Motion by Zalad. Who supported that?
Coin.
Coin?
Yeah.
Yes.
Any more comment or questions? Hearing none. All in favor of approving the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The same? And motion carried. Thank you. Want to move us on to 8C, Rodney, please?
And I will if I misplaced 8C. This next item on your agenda is related to Mid-Michigan Industries. They provide maintenance services for us in the East EDA district in the area of the park benches and trash receptacles. They also clean the corridor several times a year before major holidays. And here again, they are operating under a service agreement that expired last year and it was extended. They have indicated they had that hourly rate previously, and they have indicated a preference to go to a per shift rate. This is a change in how they handle invoicing. The effect is ultimately there's a minor increase in cost. That's also because they have not upped their rates in some time, and so it will have a minor impact on our budget, but that figure is reflected in the proposed fiscal year 2021 budget. So what you have before you is a proposed rate schedule for the coming year again, and a request to authorize to have a service agreement signed to allow MMI to continue to provide the services that they have been providing for the East EDA. Like Doug Small Engine Repair, we certainly have had no complaints about their work. In fact, what I've seen they're very thorough in their work. And so I would recommend that the proposed rate schedule be approved.
Did they define what a quote unquote shift was?
This is the crew that will be out there. So it's basically paying for the time for their crew. The number of people will vary depending on the scope of the work. So that was one of the challenges they had with the previous rate schedule in terms of tracking all of that. So this is an organization that works with folks with disabilities and other challenges, and so they basically the work that they do it will vary in terms of numbers, just depending on the particular needs of the job and the crew they have available.
Okay, but it's basically a per time or just per day that they spend out there, or did they? I have no problem with the proposal. I just curious what I'm not familiar with what a shift is.
Yeah, I think you can look at it as per time they go out there. The idea is that one shift will do the job.
Yep. Nope. That's the answer I was looking for. So I'll make a motion to accept the updated rate schedule for Mid-Michigan Industries to provide corridor cleaning and park bench area cleaning services in the East EDA district along East Pickard Road corridor, subject to annual appropriation, and to authorize Township Manager Mark Stuhldreher to sign the service agreement for these services.
I second it.
We have a motion by Zalid, supported by Chowdhury. Any more questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. And motion is approved. Thank you.
Oh, good.
So you want to take us on to item 8D, Rodney, please?
Thank you. So you have in your packet the proposed or the recommended budget. This is recommended by the township manager. The recommended budget for the fiscal year 2021, which starts January 1st, for the Economic Development Authority's service area, both the East and the West EDA districts. The work that we did over the past few months in terms of looking at projects near term and far term and doing some prioritization of those projects is reflected in this budget. You should have in your packet a request for EDA board action memo that's dated October 12th. And I'll just hit a few highlights. The budget document, first of all, it has the details for what's proposed for the for the next fiscal year. It also includes, and is worth taking a look at, Sherry Teal put together a 10-year projection for the East and the West DDA fund, looking at the potential fund balances during that period of time, based on the kind of the scope of potential projects. It's worth kind of looking over the horizon a bit at some of the numbers. For fiscal year 2021, starting with the East DDA district's operating budget, there's a proposed total appropriation of $942,320. That includes some projects that we were talking about earlier that are going to be carried over. I think Sherry mentioned earlier in the financials that there's some projects that aren't going to be completed in 2020. One of them is the pump station number 1 project that will need to be carried over to next year. There was also a proposed funding, $107,000 for Jamison Park improvements. The usual ongoing services that we provide with the mowing and the irrigation and street lighting, all in the East EDA district, the banners and other elements. There's a fund transfer of $105,100 to the fire fund to support fire services. And overall, we have at the end of the fiscal year, we have a projected year-end fund balance of $1,228,483 for the East DDA district. I'm happy to answer any questions about the East DDA budget before we move on to the West. Hearing no questions, we'll move on to the West DDA. The West DDA district operating budget, there's a total appropriation proposed of $738,460. This budget includes the South Lincoln Road improvements. This is south of the bridge down to Broomfield and intersection improvements at Broomfield that we talked about earlier that are being carried over to fiscal year 2021. It is my expectation from talking with the Road Commission that the work will get done in 2021. It also includes funding of sidewalk construction work along Remus Road in the West DDA and along a portion of South Lincoln Road. These are public sidewalks that were identified as high priorities by our Sidewalk Prioritization Committee in the Planning Commission. The budget also includes some pedestrian improvement work within the intersection, transfer of $59,000 for fire services, and overall a projected end-year fund balance of $744,189. One comment I'll make on the sidewalks. I had a conversation with the Road Commission about potential for sidewalks on South Lincoln. There's not only the work that is proposed here, but we have a couple of developers that are under an obligation to provide sidewalks. And so we've been having a conversation with the Road Commission about how to get that done in a manner that works with their long-range plan. We'll also be meeting in the near future with the Michigan Department of Transportation to have that same conversation about the work along Remus Road and M20. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about this. The action tonight, if you're so inclined, would be to approve the budget and also to recommend final adoption of the budget to the Board of Trustees. So it's sort of a two-part process, and that there is a resolution at the end of our memo for that.
Yeah, I guess I'll say my two pieces, but I am disappointed that we're going to appropriate $250,000 out of the West DDA for funds just to become a piggy bank for the sidewalk people. I'm not saying that it isn't needed. I'm not sure that in the priorities that certainly I would have, which would be extending the rest of widening the rest of Lincoln Road from the bridge northward to M20. I just, and not knowing for sure with MDOT you know, what their 10 to 12, you know, what their long range plans, if they're going to, what they're going to do. Because one of the problems you have on M20, especially on the north side of the road, that's ditch there is the overflow for, you know, for the water. When it builds up on Lincoln and can't go anywhere, it runs down there. So what I really don't want to do is spend $150,000 and then have MDOT come by in 5 or 10 years and decide they're going to do a major corridor renovation, including putting in needed stormwater improvements. Now, maybe, again, I don't know for sure, maybe that's been done and checked, but my second concern is just becoming a piggy bank. And certain boards in the past have, you know, we serve at the Board of Trustees, and if that's what they want to use our money for, then there's nothing I can say or do about it. I'm just going to vote that in my mind, I have other priorities for that $250,000 just to give it to the pedestrian group. So I understand there's a surge for that, but they don't have any funding, and because we've got the piggy bank, we're expected to do that. So I will not be supporting this budget as presented for that reason. Thank you.
Jim, can I ask you what sidewalks are you referring to on Lincoln?
Well, you know, we've had on the, you know, in our budget for the past at least 2, maybe 3 years to do the sidewalk there in front of McDonald's Park. And again, I understand if you're going to stay in the right of way, which is where the DDA boundaries are, there, you know, we haven't, show me how you're going to do that before we, you know, commit to doing anything more, because until you figure out what to do with the ditch water. And so I'm not convinced that you can place sidewalk on a county road ditch such as Lincoln and still maintain the drainage that needs to be, you know, that is in the right of way without getting easements. And then you got somebody have to answer the question that, okay, can we fund improvements that are outside the DDA boundaries, which is my understanding is the Lincoln Road right of way. So those, again, I'll be in the minority there, but that's, we haven't gotten that job done, and that's pretty straightforward, and it's right in front of the Township park. So if somebody could demonstrate to me how we're going to do that, then I guess I can look and see. Plus the other thing is I think it's going to be way more costly than what these numbers are right here. And for example, is how are you going to put sidewalk in front of Blockco, you know, with that big tall bank? So like I say, I know that the road commission is going to put in sidewalks as part of their project, and that'll be a big chunk of it. And, you know, maybe it makes sense to go ahead and do this, but I just because another committee in the township thinks it's a good idea, I guess it doesn't necessarily make it a priority for me.
I kind of feel Jim is raising an important issue that raises concern, and that's ambiguity. And we're approving a budget that includes certain things that are pretty gray and not very defined. And I'm wondering if there's a way to do that, or do we need to digest it more and look at it more closely? I realize the budget needs to get approved, but at the same time, following on Jim's thought, are we jumping ahead into something that may be too soon?
If I may, just a quick comment on that. We have there's a couple of things that come to mind. I agree with the importance of the Lincoln Road project north of the bridge. We agree with Jim's comments that that's important. The challenge we have is that is at least several years down the road. And looking at how the road commission has handled the project south of the bridge, we have to assume that it's going to be a couple of years down the road at the very least. We have an obligation under the new state law that we work under to spend money within a certain period of time. That if we are hanging on to money without having meeting certain criteria for building up a reserve, that we can run afoul of the state act in terms of that spending. That number is 5 years. The expectation is we're spending what we're taking in within 5 years of receiving it. We met that requirement last year, but with the West EDA in particular, we are sort of right up against that number. Now, I'm not saying that we can't work with that, but keep in mind the conversation we had earlier about renewing and extending this district. That we don't want to be in a position where we're seen to be, essentially hoarding revenues and not making use of them in accordance with the requirements of the state act and our own development plan. And so the funding for the sidewalk, part of the value of that project is that it's a project we can get done next year, whereas the road project is one that we are, as I said, we're carrying over a project that was intended to be done in 2019, 2020, and now it's in 2021. So we do need to spend some of the revenues that we're receiving. We certainly don't have to waste them, and I don't want to suggest that we are. We need to be careful with those funds. And so with regards to the sidewalk project, the details of any projects would be coming back to you for approval. So this is just simply reserving funds for a purpose. And just like we've done with all the other projects, whether it's road, sewer, or any project, we come back to you with the details and ask for approval of the specific project to authorize that project to move forward. So just keep in mind, you will have that information. No sidewalk can be constructed without you agreeing to that the project is right to do and the cost is the right cost for it.
And those are great responses. So yes, absolutely. And my only comment about it is we had that appropriated. We'd be in a lot better shape if the road commission had, if that project had been done, and we'll keep waiting, and now we're going to wait another year. So yes, now we're in jeopardy. So I understand. That if nothing more, regardless of state law, the appearance of just hoarding money is not good. And I guess I would be able to support the budget if we just put into $250,000 into projects for this year for the budget, because we have to. We're going to spend something, and I certainly would support getting some engineering involved. But I would like to at least have a little discussion on the board to kind of pull out the projects list. And is there anything else that we can do? That may be a higher priority to the board anyway, rather than, put this in. So what tends to happen on the budget is it's budgeted, so it's okay. And I'm voicing my concern. I'll still vote no, but the rest of the board wants to approve it as presented. Yes, we will have that option, but I don't want it to seem that, oh yeah, we thought that we approved this back in November or October, and so it's a given next to go forward. I will want to revisit each of these projects before we do anything, and also look at what other projects we can do if we're in danger of not spending our 5-year total if the road commission can't get off the snide.
I can completely agree with Jim, just how he said it on a blanket item reserve project. I was kind of leaning that way also. So if we have to not vote on that tonight, or it can be reworded or something, to gain a little more support. I would rather have the funds, well, more or less not repeating what Jim just said. So I agree with Jim on this.
This would be my suggestion. Is we do need to be specific on what the money is going to be funded for. Otherwise, we sort of look like we're creating a slush fund. And I know you're not. I know that's not your intent.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, as we go into next year, as we're looking at specific projects, we can certainly look at this further. I think it's absolutely valuable to continue to discuss projects. Obviously, as part of this, the update of this development plan, that's going to be what we're doing. We're really going to be looking at what projects do we want to do. I mean, that's the process that CIB planning is going to take us through. So I think you'll get that in detail and have lots of opportunities to identify priorities further. But my recommendation would be not to make this a general statement for the project, but rather leave it specific for the budget as presented, with the understanding, as I said, that specific projects will be brought to you, and if you feel there's a change next year as you're looking at this, budgets can be amended.
And
Fair enough.
I hear you saying they can be reprioritized as well.
There is an amendment process, certainly. The budget is amended, but right now the key is that we do have a proposal before you for a recommended budget that has been looked over. It's been evaluated. The sidewalks are an important priority for the township. I understand that the roads are important as well. We're at the mercy of the road commission with that. They have to give us a proposal before we can look at funding. So right now we don't even have a proposal to do work north of the bridge, and so there's nothing for us to respond to there. We do have a proposal to do sidewalk work in an area that needs sidewalks. The township has identified the Remus Road corridor and the Lincoln Road corridor as two very high priority areas to complete pedestrian improvements, and so that's how these items got into the budget. I think certainly I absolutely support what Jim said about the potential challenges, and as I said, the work that would be done in a manner that the sidewalks will not need to be taken out later. We'll be working with the agencies, and if we can't figure out a way to do that, then we'll be looking at reprioritizing that money somewhere else. But I believe certainly the Remus Road component is one that can be done. That planning work, I think, is in place, and my initial conversations with the State Highway Department suggest that we should be able to do that work without having jeopardy later of those sidewalk improvements being taken out. Lincoln is going to take some more discussion and engineering potential.
Well, it's an interesting discussion, but after just voting to approve CIB and working towards reprioritizing both East and West EDAs, it seems like everything we can do to help dot all our I's and cross all the T's and follow the procedures that the state sets forth for DDAs, I think is better than not doing it. So I'm going to support this motion.
This is Tom Keequam. Now, I don't know if you guys remember my sentiments on the sidewalks in the past when this came out. I mean, I can completely appreciate what Jim's saying and Mike, and I can also appreciate what Rodney's saying. We have the ability to revisit this once it comes to more fruition, because I'm not about to pursue a project that's not engineering scientifically proven, where we're changing grade or rushing a sidewalk project, for instance, only to have it not meet a greater topography master plan of surface storm, lighting, etc. But I think that's going to still come up. But I'd like you guys to approve this tonight, just for the sake of this is coming up, our budget, and we get December 16th. The trustees need it, and we're already heading towards November. But just to put some meat on the bones and keep things going, I mean, I'm okay with approving this tonight. but with the understanding that we're going to put some more substance into these sidewalk expenditure items in the future, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. It's just like, again, agreeing with the premise of what Jim said, but there, we have thrown, I just don't want to make sure we're committing all that to just that one project and that we control it. And if we don't use it, we can use that money for something else or what we decide on it, not the board or some other groups that get control of that. I would be okay with that, proving that. But again, I haven't seen any engineering, like Jim said, if you're cutting walls, and now it's a $500,000 project for sidewalks, like you said. And so as long as we can control that and say no to certain aspects and things at a point, I agree, we should use it, just like you said, Rodney, and can't have that slush fund. So
you would have approval over this specific project. So you absolutely are in that. You control that fund.
Okay.
Anybody care to make a motion of some type?
Do I have to read it, Rodney, or can I just say as presented?
I can read it if you'd like.
No, I can read it. I just got to scroll down to it and everything. So
it's on the record.
Yeah, well, read it into the motion here. Okay, now I'm on the wrong. I'm looking at the wrong motion here. So hang on a second.
Actually, Jim,
Go ahead, Marty, if you got it.
No, go ahead. I think you got a great reading voice. So please.
Well, you're gonna have to bear with me to. Thought I had it there. Okay. All right. Make a motion to approve and adopt the 2021 fiscal year budgets for the East DDA and the West DDA funds, and to recommend final adoption of these budgets to the Board of Trustees.
Support.
Motion by Zalad, support by Fig. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same.
Respectfully, no. Or aye, I guess it is.
One opposed. Any abstentions? And the motion is approved. Thank you. You want to take us to item E, Rodney?
Thank you. It's time to adopt your meeting schedule for the coming year, 2021. So you should have in your packet a request for EDA board action on that, and attached to it a proposed meeting schedule for all the boards. You see the EDA down at the bottom of the list. We have our usual monthly meetings on the third Tuesday at 4:30, as we have been holding them. And then you'll see two informational meetings in June on the fourth Tuesday, June 22nd, and in September 28th, also a fourth Tuesday. Those are the informational meetings that we're required to hold now under the State Act. So with that, I would ask for your concurrence to adopt the EDA board schedule for 2021.
Their motion.
Make the motion to approve the schedule of the regular and informational meetings of the Economic Development Authority for the 2021 calendar year to take place at 4:30 p.m. on the third Tuesday of each month, except as otherwise noted in the attached schedule. in accordance with the requirements of the Open Meetings Act.
Support.
Was that support? Coin?
Fine.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Motion carried and approved. Thank you. And what else we have here? Item 9, pending business.
None at this time.
Amen.
Item 10, director comments.
Just a couple of quick items. The irrigation is all winterized. The flowers have been removed. The banners on street light poles are scheduled to come down. And holiday lighting is scheduled to be installed. It's remarkably already that time. So you'll see that all those things happening in the next number of weeks. We have, I think, a half dozen street lights that are not working. Some are street lights, some are lights in the park bench areas. They've been identified, and the work order is in process to look at those and find out what the problem is. The only other item I have is on the bottom of your agenda. Just a reminder that next Tuesday, October 27th, we do have our last informational meeting, the last of the two, scheduled at 4:30. I would ask that we please make sure we have a quorum so we can count it as one of our informational meetings. I expect it to be short. We had the representation from the county with us at our last meeting. I certainly, they may have somebody come again, but I don't expect there to be anybody else. And so it may be a very short meeting, but nonetheless, we do have to hold 2 of these a year. So if you would just plan on it next Tuesday at 4:30.
Thank you.
Okay, and Rodney, you'll send out that short agenda again, right?
I will.
Ahead of
You'll
time.
you'll see that tomorrow, going out tomorrow.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments before I adjourn the meeting?
Nope.
Hearing, I just have a little suggestion for these Zoom meetings. We're getting a lot better at this, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, you are. Good job.
When you're not talking, put your machine on mute.
It is important to remember that you're on video as well. So that if you go in the kitchen to get a sandwich or something, it's okay to turn your video off. But yeah, it is something we have to keep in mind. The etiquette of Zoom to remember the sound and the video are going out.
Especially going up to the public comment meeting. No more cats and heavy breathing in the microphone.
Yeah.
But no, we got a lot done tonight. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome.
And
I gotta go.
with that, let's call it adjourned, 6:47. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Good night, all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Rodney.